See, before I got into real cars, this is what I was into. These are 1/10 scale radio control cars. In fact, I've been into these for a very, very long time. My first RC car, I got it when I was 5 years old, and then it just kind of blossomed from there until I got into real cars, and sometimes I wonder why I did that. But lately, I've been getting interested in doing this again. See, my buddy just went out and picked up a brand new 2024 Kyosho Fazer MK2 rally car. I love rally. Thing is, what I have here is clearly not very rallyable. Despite the fact I've got a Subaru and a Lancer to my right here, they're also not actually rally cars. These cars are designed to go on the road. So I need to find a way to take my very vintage Tamiya TA 2 and turn it into a rally car that is capable of competing against Slava's brand new Kyosho. I'm gonna link his channel over here somewhere, or down here, I don't know, it's gonna be linked somewhere. You can check it out. But needless to say, his car, again, is purpose-built, it's modern technology, and it's fast. This is from the 80s. It was designed to go on the road, and by today's standards, it's pretty slow. Those of you that are into RC cars, you're already looking at this thing going, man, that's some old technology. For those of you who aren't, allow me to show you some of the differences between modern day technology and the technology of yesteryear. First and most notable, it's gonna be the radio. Some of you may not have even seen something like this. It comes with its own bloody fishing pole. When you're a kid running around with this, it's the first thing that you snapped off. The other thing with these radios, despite this massive, massive antenna, this car could go maybe half a block before taking off on its own full throttle on the road while your 10-year-old legs chase it as fast as it possibly can, but you can't run as fast as your car goes, so the car goes across the main road, into the curb, smashes into people. Modern radios look like this. Note the tiny little antenna and the range. I can drive some of my newer cars all the way till I can't see the thing anymore, and it's still in range. So we're going to be swapping out this radio for this radio. That means we're also going to need to swap out the receiver. This is an old AM receiver with this massive, again, antenna giving you that whole half a block range. It uses something called frequency crystals, and you could swap out these crystals for different channels. The problem was if anybody around you was on that same channel, they could take control of your car. And when I say anybody around you, that doesn't necessarily mean somebody else with a radio control car. No, it could mean the 4-year-old neighbor next door with his brand new Mario walkie-talkie that also could send your car careening down the street across the main road and into it. So we're going to swap that out for a more modern one, and you're going to notice there's a kind of slight size difference. This has 2 channels. This has 6. This is going away. But I do have some plans for it involving some other vintage stuff. That's for another day. Speed controllers, again, this is what controls the speed of the car, how fast or slow it goes, or putting it in reverse. This one apparently has no reverse, which means it's an old racing ESC, because in racing, you weren't allowed reverse. So that's gonna have to go, as well as this brushed motor. So the way that motor ratings work, at least did, and some of you might have to correct me because I'm gonna be honest, I've been out of this hobby for a very, very long time. The lower the turn count on the motor, the faster the motor turns. That makes sense? Let me explain that real quickly. Inside the motor, you have a bunch of magnets around the outside, and then a whole bunch of coils of copper wire on the inside. The less coils of copper that are in there, the higher the top RPM of the motor is. Now, everything goes brushless. The coils are actually on the outside, the fixed magnets on the inside, which means this thing is completely archaic. This speed control is linked to a 28-turn brushed motor. That's a really slow motor. So that's probably going to have to come out because I happen to know that Slava's car has a 14-turn in it, which means it's going to just wipe the floor with this thing. For a few reasons. First off, the motor. Secondly, the actual driveline layout. If you take a look at this driveline layout in comparison to this car here, which is also actually a very old, outdated car, you're going to see some pretty major inefficiencies. This car here at least shares the driveline layout of most modern RC cars, or a lot of modern RC cars at least. Center drive shaft with the motor connected directly to the drive shaft via the pinion and spur, and that drive shaft is connected directly to the front diff and directly to the rear diff. In contrast, the TA02, we have the motor connected to the pinion, which is connected to the spur gear. The spur gear is connected to the reduction gear is connected to the idler gear, and the idler gear is connected to the rear differential. If you go to the front, the pinion is connected to the spur gear is connected to a bevel gear, the bevel gear is connected to a bevel gear, it's connected to the drive shaft runs to the front, which is connected to a bevel gear, connected to another bevel gear, connected to a step down gear, connected to an idler gear, connected to the front differential. There's a little bit of mechanical loss there, to say the least. So I'm going to have to make sure that we've got enough power shoved into this thing to be able to keep up with Slava's much more efficient Kyosho. Next up, we're going to need some ride height. As you can see right now, we really don't have much. And rally cars have to be able to go off-road. I need to be able to drive over gravel, rocks, dirt, jumps. That means raising a ride height. But I'm also seeing some issues like cracking on the bulkheads. So I am a little bit concerned about the longevity of this thing. We're gonna actually take it apart and see how bad the damage actually is and see if we can fix that. Let's tear into the thing, get it apart, get the electronics out, and then let's go about seeing what we can do about raising the ride height, fixing our suspension geometry, and making this thing fast enough that we can at least give Slava a run for his money. It's all apart, and there's good news and bad news. Good news is I haven't lost anything yet. Bad news is it's in a lot rougher shape than I originally thought it was. Here's our rear gearbox housing, and it's broken in quite a few places. So these cracks up here, I got 1, 2, 3 cracks. Those are all just to hold the upper gear cover on, so I think we'll be okay there. The one that is a little bit worrisome is this one back here. This holds the entire lower control arm in place, and it's split all the way up here. Don't know if I'm going to be able to fix that. We're going to try fix it because I don't have much choice. I don't have another one of these, and I have no idea where I can get a new one. The upper housing is all cracked around the screws here as well. I assume they were over tightened at some point in time, unfortunately. And our rear diff cover as well is also snapped right on the side here. So that's a little bit of a nuisance. Same with the front housing. Everything's cracked there. And we've got a pretty good hit on our lower control arm mount on the front as well. But it is what it is. We're gonna have to make do, somehow make it work. The chassis itself looks like it's not too bad. A little bit of a bend here. I think I might be able to just heat this up and kind of bend it back. But I did notice something as I was taking this all apart. This hole here is oval, and that's for the battery. And that's because the old batteries, this is what they look like, these stick packs. They just kind of slide in there like so. Now that wouldn't be a problem if I was planning to run these NiCads, but these NiCads are like 30 years old, they don't hold a charge, and even if they did hold a charge, you only get about 6 minutes of runtime out of it if you're lucky. Batteries now look like this because we run Lipos. So Lipos will give you about 20 minutes of runtime, but as you can see, it's square, so that's not going to fit in. Obviously, first thing that comes to mind is just cut this out, then you can slide the square pack in, but if I put this in here, it's longer too, so I won't even be able to put the retainer in. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do there. Because the chassis is in such rough shape, I might just cut it and slide the battery in, maybe use a zip tie or something to hold the battery in place. Don't know if I want to cut it. That's a really short-term solution. I don't know if I'm going to have much choice. I think I'm going to 3D print a chassis. What to do? Yeah, let's 3D print a chassis. All right, looks like the print is done. We'll get to that in a little bit though, because first I need to figure out what we're going to do about all of these red plastic parts that are in absolutely horrible condition. I found some online, but they're going to be insanely expensive to ship them to Canada, so I'm debating whether I want to do that or not, because it's probably going to cost me more in shipping than I paid for this entire chassis. But we'll get to that in a little bit, because I don't have the parts now anyways, and I want to use this thing, which means I need to try and fix what I've got. So I'm going to try and use a little bit of a hack that I've seen online. I don't know if it's going to work, and it involves using baking soda and, have it here somewhere, super glue. All we're going to do is put a little bit of super glue into the crack, fill it with baking soda, and that's supposed to make enough of a bond that these should be functional again. And the internet never lies, so it must work. Right? Let's find out. And it actually is surprisingly strong. I can put a pretty good amount of force on these joints, and they don't break free. So hopefully this is going to be strong enough to hold, and we'll be able to use the car. Inevitably, I'm sure I'm going to have to replace these, but we'll see how long I can run it like this. Because fact is, I need new gearboxes, I need a new chassis, I need a new rear differential. I don't know if you'll be able to see this in the camera, but it looks like the cup has been sliding out over time like this, and all of the splines on the cup and the diff are completely gone. So I basically have to replace 75% of this car anyways. Don't know if it's worth saving, but we're gonna try anyway, so let's get this thing back together. Well, our gearboxes are done, and that means we may as well take a look at our chassis. This is fresh off the printer, and as you can see, I've designed it pretty similar to the original chassis, but there are some variances. I'm going to go over those in a little bit. Now, the material that I chose to use is carbon fiber PETG, and there's a couple of reasons that I chose this. First of all, PETG has very, very good layer adhesion. For those that aren't familiar with 3D printing, basically all we're doing is extruding a layer of plastic out and then moving up and extruding a layer on top and on top and on top and on top, so we end up with these little layer lines. And certain plastics don't adhere as well to each other, which means you can actually split at the layer lines. PETG is very strong. Carbon fiber helps prevent any kind of shrinkage. So as these plastics cool down after the printing process, what can happen is the item can actually shrink down in size, and when something needs to be dimensionally accurate for other items to be able to fit on top, having that shrinkage can be a real problem. So the carbon fiber really helps hold everything in place and eliminates that issue. So if I take this plate, I should be able to just snap it in, like so. Of course, there are a few other little things about 3D printing which need to be dealt with, and that is some of the post-processing. Because again, we are extruding layers upon layers upon layers, means that you can't extrude a layer into thin air. It means that there has to be something below it, and that means sometimes you need to use something called supports. In this case, I've had to use supports in all of our bolt holes because all the bolt holes are recessed, and the printer will try and print the inner circle first and then move its way to the outside. Of course, the inner circle doesn't have anything below it, so we have to put supports in there. So I'm going to do a little bit of post-processing on this. We're going to punch out all of these additional supports, get them out of the way, clean everything up, and then I think we'll assemble it, and then I'll go over some of the changes that I made to the original chassis to try and improve it for rally use, rigidity, and obviously for a new Lipo battery. I am missing 6 screws. 6! That's a lot of screws to go missing. But the evidence points to one culprit. Which means they could be absolutely anywhere. Under a cushion, under a carpet, in the back of a truck. They could be outside. I don't know. This is something I didn't think about when I taught my toddler how to use a screwdriver. That he collects screws now. A motor. I find little stashes of them all over the place. So
He came upstairs with the rally car wheels the other day too.
where are the 6 tiny little Tamiya screws?
And dump trucks.
My hopes are not high finding these. Hi, buddy.
Hey, go buddy.
Hi, buds.
You go see Daddy?
Thank you very much. And that's pretty much it for the assembly of our chassis. Now I know I said we were going to convert this thing into a rally car, but let's face it, the condition of the components on this chassis are rough at best. So I think for now we're going to leave it in road form before we go subjecting it to the rigors of off-road and just see how things hold up. Luckily though, I also have this chassis. This is my prototype and it's in a little bit better condition, so we have a second chassis here. I think we might just use this one for rally duty for now, and maybe later we'll convert both of them over. But that's gonna be for another episode, converting this one. Let's go over some of the changes made to the original tub compared to the new tub. Hi, buddy.
I go down.
You go down? Okay.
Peekaboo.
Peekaboo.
Look up, please.
Please, how do you sign please?
Please.
Good job. Here you go.
It's heavy.
It is heavy. Well, I'm gonna try and make this really quick because I've got some playing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the original chassis. We can see inside we've got a ladder frame. Okay, you know what? This is just not gonna happen. Anyway, there's the new chassis. There's the old chassis. The old chassis, that's right. I've added some angle into here to deflect all the debris downwards for rally use. We've obviously upgraded the top plate.
Hi, Dad.
Hi!
Bum.
Fist bump! High five. I'm not gonna get through the rest of this video. I'll go through the upgrades on this next time. Have a good one.
It's the rally wheel.
The rally wheels?
Yeah.
Yeah, where's the rally wheels?
I go first.
You go get? Okay.